And welcome into the 90 plus 2 podcast. I'm Jeremy Striano. That's Sammy St.Jean. And this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We're aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game. And this is our starting point. And this is episode number 8, the Ocho. Sammy, how are we doing, fella?
Good. A little tired today. Broadcasted 2 baseball games. Got 3 more tomorrow. So gonna hand over most of the hosting duties to you to save the pipes a little bit. But I'm doing well. It's been a good week. Been restful after the end of the semester. So just pumped up, ready to talk a little ball.
I love it. I've been waiting for this call for 7 episodes now. You've been doing such a great job steering the ship here, but figure I'd give it a crack. And why don't we just jump right in, get right to it, and we'll start with some UEFA Champions League soccer semifinals, leg one. We have two just perfectly balanced semifinals. One with, I think, is the number one and the number two team in the world, in my opinion. And then the other taking place in the same city. So next week, they don't have to fly anywhere. They don't have to go anywhere. It's like Giants and Jets at MetLife Stadium. They're just going to flip whoever's on the scoreboard, from home and away. So we'll start with the one that's not in the same city. We'll start with Real Madrid, Man City. And look, I remember predicting a win. I forget for who, but this one ended in a draw, 1-1. Vinicius Jr. scored an absolute worldie off the run of play. So they take a 1-0 lead into the game, but then in the second half, and I don't mind saying that he's, to me, the best center mid in the world because it's a pain just to, play against him as a United fan. But Kevin De Bruyne, man, the Ginger Wonder, he just puts his team on his back when he can. So it ends 1-1. So going into next week, this one's going to be a fun one, Sammy. Give me your main takeaway from the semifinal.
I feel like there's a lot to take away. One, Vinny Jr. is incredible. Not that we didn't already know that, but that goal he scored was fantastic. Kevin De Bruyne was out of bounds. Shouldn't have been a goal. So it should be 1-0 going to City. But again, although like they let it go, so Kevin De Bruyne, it was a great individual goal. I was very surprised with how that game went in the general sense because I feel like Real Madrid was the better team. I think for the majority of the game, and I think my bigger complaint for City or concern, I should say, that midfield seemed lost, and that's not normally an issue for that. Aside from Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri was quiet. Gundogan was terrible. Rodri didn't really do a whole lot until he stole possession for that De Bruyne goal. So I'm a little concerned about that midfield. And in general, I just feel like Real Madrid have so much on the counter. Like a Real Madrid goal happens so fast. And I think this was an overall even game, but I think Real Madrid were the better team. And it's a little disappointing for them to not come away with a result.
Yeah, so I put it on our notes that it was a very even game, even though possession is so like, you can judge a game by possession sometimes, but sometimes, it's, to me, it's irrelevant at certain occasions. But it was 56-44 in favor of Man City. And also, I wanted to point this out to you too and get your opinion on this. It was a real disciplined game. So there were only 2 yellow cards per team. So City had 2, Real Madrid had 2. Obviously, no red cards. Red cards are obviously very rare in this situation. Sammy, I wanted to ask you this before we get on into the Milan derby. Do you think that's a purpose? Like, do you think that it is preached by managers in big games, especially for the UEFA Champions League or for cup finals or for semifinals, really rather, because this is a semifinal that'll get you a spot into arguably the biggest game in club soccer in the calendar year. Do you think that's preached enough? Like, hey boys, or hey lads, let's just keep it a clean game. Like, let's just not do anything dumb so you can, don't hurt our chances going into the final.
I think it is part of it. I will say I expected, in a little surprise, there wasn't more cautions over the course of the game because Grealish and Carvajal were going at it. Oh my goodness. And their battle was just aggressive. Like those two were getting into it. And I will say I love the Vinny Walker battle. Oh my. And like the sportsmanship they showed after the game, just like appreciating what happened. Walker didn't get burned by a single player the entire game. Like Vinny scored that goal, but it wasn't because of Walker. So I think one, it's a result of quality. You have players that understand the moment. And in Real Madrid, no other team understands the moment bigger than that club and the players in that club. And under Carlos Ancelotti, as well as being coached by, I mean, arguably one of the GOATs. I mean, Pep has this team ready for a Champions League. He's been trying to bring a Champions League title to City for a little while now. Seems like this has probably been his best chance if the last season wasn't. So I'm curious as to see how it goes at it. I would not be surprised if Grealish or Carvajal pick up a caution and then at the next game. Would hate to see a red card play into this one.
Yeah.
But I do think something will come up in next game, whether it be a couple players playing cautious because they're on yellows or something of the sort.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be more chippy depending on, the score line. Like if a team gets ahead early, that team that's down a goal or even two will kind of, maybe blow a top here or there. But well, I'll ask you your prediction a little bit, but let's just move on to the second semifinal from the San Siro. And look, to me, I know I remember being keen on AC Milan, but this one was to me over early. I mean, well, in terms of the scoreline, Edin Dzeko and Henrik Mkhitaryan, two of the veterans on this Inter Milan team that are just, to me, balanced. I think they are a very balanced team. They get the dub 2-0 over AC Milan, and Inter Milan are just on great form, not only in UEFA, but in domestic league as well, as we'll get into later. And this is another one. So AC Milan owned possession 58-42, but again, the real main stat is the scoreboard, and they're down 2-0 going into the second leg. So I wanted to ask you, Sam, is it time to panic for AC Milan?
Leao can't play next week. It is. I think that's the deciding factor.
Yeah.
I think that was the deciding factor this week because Inter knew they could play extremely aggressive in that first half, and there wasn't a player really on the AC Milan side that was going to burn them. Leao is I don't think it's an over-exaggeration to say he would have been the best player on the pitch.
Right.
And by just going pure talent-based, I don't think it's relatively close. Like, I think Leao is seriously special, and I am a bit of a homer because I just love him I'm just a fan.
I was going to say, I think he's probably the most mentioned player through 8 episodes of this podcast. Definitely one of them. Definitely top 3.
Harry Kane's up there too.
Harry Kane is also
I do
there.
talk a lot about Harry Kane.
Davinson Sanchez as well, but
David De Gea might be getting up there soon.
We'll see in the Premier League.
Yeah. But I was a little disappointed in general with Milan because they were coming off a solid result against.
You mean AC?
AC. Yes. Right, clarifying.
Sorry.
Inter and Milan. That's how I'm addressing them because that's how I usually go back. Lazio, AC Milan beat Lazio 2-0, the second place team in the Serie A. And I was a little disappointed to see that this was what they were able to turn around. Maybe it was a little bit of exhaustion. It did seem like Inter was just on their front foot. And the way they pressed in that first half, they were playing further up the pitch. And I really liked what I saw in general, but really massive credit to Inzaghi for the lineup decisions he made, because the 2 goal scorers were the ones that probably weren't expected to start. It was probably going to be Lukaku and then I always blank on the other midfielder's name, Brosnian or something along those lines. I always blank on his name.
Who was that?
He came in Brosnian, maybe. He always comes on. He came in as a sub in that
for
game.
Inter Milan.
Yeah,
Brozovic.
I always blank on his name. I don't know why.
That's okay. I like him.
But he was probably expected to start. Mm-hmm. And those 2 players were Dzeko and Mkhitaryan were chosen to start over those 2 players, over Lukaku and Brosnian, and they ended up being the 2 first goal scorers. So I think that's a credit to the coach in that situation. Someone who's been under a little fire after some of the results that Inter was having in the middle of the season, but credit to them. But in general, if I'm Inter Milan, I am beating myself up for only winning 2-0. I think that in a pitch next week that'll have 75% AC Milan fans is going to be eerie, especially if Leao plays. If Leao doesn't play, I think this one's chalked, but yeah.
So you think that he is probably going to be the main reason behind a 2-0 comeback, correct?
I think you just have to play you can play very different and more free, more aggressive defensively if he's not on the field because you don't have to fear the type of runs he's going to make, the creativity he brings to that side. That little combination of Theo Hernandez and him on that left side is just unimaginably good and unimaginably talented. So when you don't have to deal with one of those two monsters on the left side, it just becomes a whole lot easier and you have to be a whole lot more aggressive because Leo's fast and he is shifty. And when you don't have to deal with that, and I would argue be the most frightening player, I mean, going forward, it's just a lot easier to play defense, a lot easier to play aggressive, a lot easier to go for those kind of 50-50 balls. You just have a lot more leeway if you're Inter when Leao doesn't play versus when he does.
Just a side note, I don't know why, but as a United fan, I've always wanted Fikayo Tomori on United. I know like we saw him on Chelsea, and then when obviously they sold him permanently to AC Milan, I was like, man, I was shocked because rarely does a player go from Prem, like a high level Prem team, to AC Milan. But Chelsea also did it a second time with Bakayoko. But to me, Bakayoko is a completely different player. Like he's not as impactful to me as Fikayo Tomori is on the back end. So before we get into the Premier League, because we're going to transfer over that there very soon, you'll go first. Give me your prediction and who will be playing in the 2023 UEFA Champions League final, Sam.
So is it a cop-out if I give you two answers for the Inter AC, whether Leao plays or does not play? Is that a cop-out or should I pick one or the other?
It's not a cop-out, but see if you can narrow it down. I mean, I know because it's like it's still
All
up
right.
in the air.
I'm going to stick to saying he's not playing because he
Okay.
was out. He's been out for a few games in a row. So I'm
Right,
going
right,
to
right, right.
caution it. If he plays, I think it gets very close, but I do think Inter probably still holds on. I'm going to say maybe in that game, if Leao plays, it would be like 3-2, maybe. Like I think it's going to open up a little bit more. It'd be 3-2. Like final aggregate. Like Milan would probably win that game 2-1, but not come back and win. But since I don't think we're gonna say he's not playing for now. I think Inter win 2-1. Actually, I think it's just gonna be the reverse score. I think Inter will move on aggregate wise 4-1. And then we're looking at Real City. It's tough because you're going into the Etihad and you're going to City. I still think Real Madrid. And it's because this is Real Madrid's competition.
Yep.
The Champions League is Real Madrid's competition. And I don't think City impressed me enough in that first leg to convince me that this isn't their competition. And City have to go up against Everton this weekend, and Everton have been good lately. Like they've actually
them in just like few minutes. But
exactly.
yeah.
And regardless, City's going to be tired after that game. Real Madrid could not care less about La Liga right now. I don't think they've cared for the last 2 months.
No.
So I think that we're at a point right now where Real Madrid's just going to kind of, whether they lose this weekend or not, they couldn't care. Like they're just going to take it easy, be ready for that game. City are still trying to accomplish a treble right now. So I think they still sort of have to go after that game. They might swap in like Alvarez to start for Holland and a couple players here or there, but they still have to use a lot of their quality guys. Not that they don't have the most depth in all of Europe, but I have Real Madrid winning. This might go to extra time, but I'm going to go 2-1 Real Madrid.
You stole my prediction. But so I'll start with that one. You hit the nail on the head. And I always say that when you make a great point on this show. This Champions League tournament it's like this should be like the Real Madrid UEFA Champions League, like sponsored by Real Madrid. Like this is them. When you think of Los Blancos, when you think of that Fly Emirates uniform, you think of those nighttime games at the Bernabeu, at wherever they're playing on the road, and they are playing to the best of their ability. Yes, I think they don't give a crap about domestic play right now. I think Ancelotti he puts on a side and goes, fellas, this is our competition. So I'm going with 2-1 as well. So I think it'll be 3-2 on aggregate in favor of Real Madrid. And for the Milan derby, I'm going to go with the 1-1 draw, which we'll still see Inter Milan take this one 3-1 on aggregate. And the beauty of that is if this all comes and plays into fruition, we get an absolute an absolute blue blood final. I'm going to compare this to like a Duke Kansas. We see like in college basketball. This would be one of the best matchups to me in a long time. No disrespect to Liverpool, Tottenham. No disrespect to Man U, the Man U Barcelona. Like that Man U team did not show up. We would get a great game. Sammy, what do you got?
I think it's gonna be a massacre no matter who wins. I think City or Real Madrid is gonna beat the brakes off of whoever's on the other
You
side of the
think
pitch
so?
from them. I think there's a gap in quality
Okay.
between these two teams, and I think the first half of that championship is going to be close. But the second leg, when they kind of after they feel each other out, I think it's just going to go. Whether I'm right or wrong about Real Madrid going through, whether it's Real
Mm,
Madrid or City, I think
yeah.
it's gonna. And it seems like an obvious thing maybe to say because of some of the domestic results, but I really don't see one of these Serie A sides really competing with Real Madrid and City at this point, especially if Real Madrid can go through and they don't have any other worries. They're just focused on winning another Champions League. That's what they do.
Mm. So because I think Inter Milan are going to go through, I went ahead and looked at the last time they were in a Champions League final, and it was in the year 2010, and they actually ended up winning the game 2-0. Do you know who they played? I'll give you
No,
three guesses. It's a real popular, like a big time team.
Bayern.
Yeah, great guess. And they won. They won 2-0. Man of the match was Wesley Schneider,
Hmm.
2010 World Cup legend for the Netherlands. All right, so we expect a great couple of matchups next week after we're done graduating for some Champions League soccer. But let's get into the Premier League. We had some real exciting results over the weekend. Sammy, as you do, I'm going to mimic my co-host here. I'm going to run through all of the results, and you tell me which ones stand out to you. Sounds good? Okay. So we got Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 3, Man City 2, Leeds 1. Wolves with a surprising 1-0 win. I see you put a little note next to that one over Aston Villa, who were on great form and now are just like dropping games left and right. Your Spurs, and I told you, I called this one too. Spurs pick up a result 1-0 over Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace. Liverpool, one of my locks over the weekend, a 1-0 win over Brentford. The game of the weekend, Newcastle 0, Arsenal 2, but is it too little too late for Mikel Arteta and the Gunners? West Ham 1, Man United 0 on what was probably the worst goal I've ever seen David De Gea give up in my entire life. We'll get into that a little later. And then we get into some like this. I remember texting you this day when all these games were going on, and I was like, what's going on in the Prem right now? We have Fulham beating Leicester 5-3. That's a hockey game. That is a hockey game. That's not soccer at all. Brighton 1, Everton 5. What? Like, I don't get it. And Nottingham Forest picking up a huge win, in my opinion, against last place Southampton, 4-3. So even their fans had to hold their breath there for a little bit. Sammy, where do we begin?
I think let's begin at the bottom here. I
Okay.
think Forest secured that Southampton's going down with that.
Yes.
I think that was a deal breaker. I think Everton have been the most impressive team from the past like 2-3 weeks. They're fighting and they want to stay up. Not that like teams want to go down. Like I'm not saying that, but like they are battling right now, and that was a passionate performance against Brighton, and also kind of exposed Brighton a little bit. Especially when Brighton had a couple games in hand, like there's still a chance they could sneak into the Europa League, maybe even make a battle at fourth place, and that dropped result is going to be painful to their European hopes. But obviously, I have to bring us to Spurs. It's just inevitable. I'm going to talk about Spurs. I was impressed in general by Tottenham in this game, and a
A
one
clean
nothing winning.
sheet. A
Yeah,
clean
a
sheet.
clean sheet with Fraser Forrester in goal. Come on now. Um, there was just a lot of things I did like. One, their choice to switch to a 3-4-3. Another, the choice to put Emerson as one of the center backs, and he did well. And I didn't have to watch Eric Dyer play. It was great.
Pizza man. No more pizza
I
man.
Romero was unbelievable. He was back to Ferrari Rolls Royce man Romero. Loved it. I think Langley has been one of the most underrated players for Spurs this season.
I've loved him. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I love his name, but I just think he's like a solid depth defender for you guys.
I love Pedro Porra. I think he's going to be a really good signing in the
Signing of the year
future.
for you.
And now that he's in a 3-4-3, he was able to get forward a little bit more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was a lot more creative. And the way he services the ball into Kane is going to be, if Kane decides he wants to stick it out with Spurs and it likes the future project, that could be a really nice combination. I thought
Yeah.
Sonny wasn't necessarily great going forward, but defensively he put in some good work. Um, Richie's still killing me, man. I need more out of Richie. But
Yeah,
in
no.
general, I really liked what I saw from Tottenham, and I thought it was one of the more passionate performances we're getting. And I am happy that Ryan Mason is willing to take some chances and mix things up.
Have you seen a difference with him at the helm again?
Um, I mean, in comparison to Stellini and Conte, yes. Um, it's not the answer necessarily. Like,
Right,
it's
right,
not
right.
like,
But for temporary reasons, I mean.
regardless, I want Mason on the future staff. I
Okay.
think he bleeds and dies Spurs. Like, I think he gives a crap more than everyone else. And I think that's what Tottenham needs more than anything. They just need to care. And I think that's been an issue for them in recent history. And I think he brings passion to Spurs. And you over the past week, Harry Kane kind of came and talked about how Tottenham need to kind of revisit their values and kind of get back to what they were before the recent last few years of inconsistency. And I think his philosophy and mentality brought together with whatever full-time manager they want to invest in, I do think that is a future project to have a little belief in, even though it's the hope that kills you.
Hey, that's one of May's best quotes from Ted Lasso. Before I move on to some dreadful results over on the other side of London, Ryan Mason, if I can make a hockey reference real quick, because the Rangers just fired their head coach this week, Gerard Gallant, and so they have to fire the staff as well. But sometimes some coaches like goaltending coaches or video coaches will stay on. Ryan Mason reminds me of Benoit Allaire, who's been the goaltending coach for the Rangers. He's coached Henrik Lundqvist throughout his entire career, but the Rangers have had since Benoit Allaire has been a coach. They've had let's see, John Tortorella, excuse me, Tom Rennie, John Tortorella, Alain Vigneault, David Quinn, Gerard Gallant. So five head coaches. I think it's five, and Benoit Allaire has been there for the entire time because to me, like one of the Rangers' strengths is goaltending. So why fire the goaltending coach, right? That's what I think Ryan Mason is. I think the players I think they appreciate him. I think the club just appreciates him. Say what you want about Levy. I know, Levy out, all this, going on with your club right now. But I just think that club appreciates that man. And, hopefully he does stay on because you don't want to, you want to keep some of the foundation. You want to keep a little bit of the foundation. You don't want to just tear it all off, right? So whoever comes in, whether if it's Nagelsmann, Enrique, have there been any other coaching links to Tottenham? Any new ones or not really?
A couple different ones, but I'm gonna hold my breath because really nothing's gonna happen until they actually bring in a director of football. So
That's
I'm gonna kind of save everybody else's ears with my speculation until there's a little more concrete foundation of who their director of football is going to be, because I know that's what Nagelsmann's holdup is if he's going to have any interest in the Spurs project.
okay. Well said, Sammy. Well, a positive result for you, a negative result for my beloved. Um, yeah, the last time we were on with Owen, I was really, really upset about that Brighton game. McAllister hitting that penalty in the last minute. And then him and I are both very oddly optimistic about, like, you know what? We'll just pick it up against West Ham and we'll find a way to win. Boy, were we wrong. Um, I mean, this is like,
Biggest
I
club in
don't even,
London.
yeah, well, that's true. They are massive. Shout out, Hammers fan Carl Winter. Um, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, I know I'm being a little dramatic, but I'm gonna be real with you and say, like, I'm really nervous that United are gonna like fumble the bag and we're gonna get Europa again. Um, I know we have a fairly easy schedule compared to some other teams, compared to like Chelsea, obviously. Um, I just don't know like what's going on. I have no idea where this club is going, like just to end the year. Like I know that we're not in any more competitions apart from the FA Cup final, but like, man, it's just been ugly, lackluster football. And I know injuries have been a pain for the back line. I can't wait for the summer. I think Eric Ten Hag, the board, whoever they appoint as the new owners, which I kind of want to get into. So if you don't mind, I'll just go into a little bit. So there have been reports that the Glazers are, I don't want to say close, but they're favoring the group led by Sir Jim Radcliffe over the Qatari takeover because of the fact that Sir Jim Radcliffe's plan would still have the Glazers kind of hold some power. Now, they won't be the primary owner. It would be Sir Jim Radcliffe, but they will be still involved in the club if Radcliffe's group does take over. If the Qatari bid takes over, that is a complete 180. They're gone, everyone's gone. So it kind of makes sense where it's like, okay, are we really selling the club? But if we can still be a part of the club, then let's just go with Sir Jim. I think this would be the biggest failure in a long time, because when you hear the rumors that the Glazers want to sell, it's great. You know, there's so many protests going on. There's so many voices being heard at the club. You know, do you understand, you know, why they wear green and yellow instead of like red and black? You get that? You get that, you know. Yeah, fans are pissed. And it's happening at a time where the football's kind of been, dare I say, poor. Look, I don't know what's going to happen in the direction of this club. I would prefer a complete 180 takeover because with the Glazers at the helm, this is not the United that we know, and it's not the United that I love. And I want to change the direction. I know this is me speaking from thousands of miles away over in a completely different country, but this club will not be where they once were with this family still being involved with this club. And it's something that I'm a little, you know, heated about. And it's something that should just be, you know, addressed. And you know, hopefully a decision is made. Oh, I just want to see some fresh faces come into, you know, the transfer window because United need depth more than ever. Real quick, if you don't have anything else to add, I'm gonna jump into some key fixtures for the weekend, and you highlight which one you're looking forward to, Sammy. Starting at the top with your boys, they're taking on Aston Villa, who to me, I think Spurs can find a result here. I think, you know, Aston Villa has been a little bit lackluster with their form of play. Man United against Wolves. I'm hoping United get 3 points out of this one. I will not hold my breath. I'll be shocked if they don't get anything other than a draw. Everton, Man City. Now, I highlight this one because it's, you know, the top against the bottom. But as you said before, Sammy, Everton are playing with some passion right now. They're playing with something that, you know, it's like they want to prove that they're, you know, a quality team and they want to get out of that relegation zone. And then 2 more I've highlighted: Arsenal against Brighton, and then Newcastle Brighton on Thursday to start the next match week. Sammy, if I didn't put anything else down there, was there something else that you had your mind on, or what are you keeping your eye on for this weekend?
My mind's on Villa Spurs, man. My
Yeah,
mind is
man.
on Villa Spurs. Because Villa's been weird. They beat Newcastle 3-0, and then drew at Brentford, barely beat Fulham, lost to United, and then lost to Wolves. So it's been like a very weird stretch for them. But again, I have a lot of hope for this game, and it's because of the Palace game. But again, it's the hope that kills you. Like, I usually don't go into the weekend all that hopeful, so I'm hoping it's not going to burn me. They play Saturday at 10 a.m. I might not watch the end of the game because we'll be headed towards our commencement. So I might be helped out by the ending of this game not being watchable for me, which would be, if they're losing, that'd be helpful. But honestly, I have a weird game that I'm kind of interested in, and it's the Chelsea Nottingham Forest game. Because Forest's last performance against Southampton, they put on a better attacking performance than we've seen from them in a little while. I always have faith in Keylor Navas, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a draw out of this contest. Already kind of gave my thoughts on City and Everton, And then I'll kind of just touch on the Brighton games. I think that Brighton don't get a single point from both of those games.
Wow.
And I have a little concern with Arsenal because they're starting to run into some injury issues with Saliba and Zinchenko. But like I don't think either of them are going to play the rest of the season. But Arsenal, I still think are the second best team, and I don't think it's that close. I mean, they proved it against Newcastle. Um, so I think Brighton lose to Arsenal, and I think Brighton lose to the third best team in the Prem in Newcastle. I don't see either of those results actually being that close. Like I'd say both of them end like 3-1 or something along those lines.
Real quick, who's your favorite Premier League team of the season card in FIFA 23?
I mean, Harry Kane.
Man, this is a good card. I have him on loan. I got him in a loan pack with him and Sonny, so I still have them in my team right now. Well, that's it for the Premier League. Let's jump on over to Mambo Italiano and the Serie A. All right, so over in the Serie A, we have some results to get to. Inter Milan, who we just previously mentioned in the UEFA Champions League semifinals, they picked up a really big win over Lazio 2-0. AC Milan pick up a 2-0 win over Lazio. Because now I got you confused, and now I'm confused. Saying, okay, AC Milan pick up the 2-0 win against Lazio. Inter Milan also pick up a 2-0 win, this time against Jose Mourinho's squad in AS Roma. Juventus pick up a 2-0 win over Atalanta, and then the champs of Serie A, Napoli, pick up a 1-0 win over Fiorentina. Sammy, did anything over the weekend stand out to you in Serie A?
Second through seventh is separated by 8 points. That's what stands out to me more than anything else.
Yeah.
So the battle for Europe is very much on. I again was impressed with both Milan and Inter, the two different Milan teams, just to clarify, over the weekend. And I think Inter was the only team that showed up in the Champions League. So I don't know. I think these results were a little deceiving for me in a way. Like I expected so much more out of Milan after they beat Lazio, who fell to third. Now they're 2 points behind Juventus, who's in second now. Inter's in fourth, Milan's in fifth, Atalanta's in sixth, and Roma's in seventh. I expect Atalanta and Roma to switch spots and would find it just fascinating that not only are Inter Milan and AC Milan battling out in the Champions League, but they're also battling for European qualification or Champions League qualification next season. They are the fourth and fifth team, 63 points for Inter, 61 for AC Milan. And right now it looks like Inter is going to be the one that grabs it, but it really could go either way. And I just think it's fascinating to see these two Milan teams matching up. And again, just another congratulations to Napoli. And they didn't really need that win against Fiorentina. Like it doesn't really matter. But big ups to them. Congratulations. The scenes all week were really cool to see. Yeah, really not too much to talk about. I'm just kind of waiting for some of these matches where I don't know. I'm waiting for one of these few teams to drop points.
Yeah.
A lot of the teams ended up actually picking up results, so it kind of diminished the, I guess, overall excitement that would come from some of these games. Because this week was big because a lot of these teams were playing against each other. But now that it's kind of the rest of the way and there isn't a ton of like competition between the top, I am looking forward less this week and more the match week 36 when Napoli play Inter. I think that's going to have a big impact on the final kind of Champions League standings. I think that game will be absolutely massive as one can imagine. And then Inter Atalanta the following week will be pretty big as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think my inner Carney fraud is coming out again because I remember earlier on in one of the earlier episodes, I was like really high on Roma just to get a Champions League spot. They might not even get a Europa League spot. They have only had one win in their last five. They're 1, 2, and 2 in their last five.
As it currently stands, they're not even in the Conference League.
No,
so.
Yeah, like
I think they'll surpass Atalanta, but still, like it's been tough sledding for them going 1 for 5, dropping as many points as they have. They've screwed it a little bit.
It's a win-win to me, in my opinion, because even if so it's either we see Jose Mourinho in European football once again, or it's a better chance that Jose Mourinho becomes the new United States men's national team coach.
He's going to PSG if he leaves.
That'd be, I would like that for him. He makes that league more interesting, which is him being there, in my opinion. I know
he makes the press conferences more interesting, I guess.
With the French media too. Like the French media, like European media outlets, that's why we only really follow Fabrizio Romano with our transfer news and anything and any news in general. Like he'll be the one to break like Man U are being sold to either Sir Jim Radcliffe or I forget the name of the Qatari bidder, but like I can't trust any media outlet. Like I feel like that's like a big difference compared to like American sports to soccer over in Europe is that there are so many outlets that I trust over here with insiders in every sport. Like with basketball, it's Woj and Shams, and for baseball, it's Jeff Passan and John Morosi and John Heyman, Hockey Scott, Frank Saravalli, Elliot Friedman, Darren Dreger, just name a few. For soccer, it's only Fabrizio, in my opinion. It's only him. He is the one that I can just be like, okay, if he says it, I know it's true. So you and I can talk about Fabrizio for a long time, but we'll go over to the Bundesliga where we have some results over there. Borussia Dortmund, who have been one of my favorite teams this year, an absolute demolition derby against Wolfsburg 6-0. Bayern, a little too close for comfort, though. They get the win over Werder Bremen 2-1, but this is the one where I'm a little upset. Augsburg, 1-0 over the little brother. I think I'm turning into a Union Berlin fan, a Union fan. Augsburg pick up a 1-0 win, and Mönchengladbach, the kit that I wore for last episode. And one of my locks for I had to break it to you, Sammy. I was 3-0 with my locks this past week. Mönchengladbach picked up a win over Bochum 2-0. Look, does Dortmund have a chance here, pal?
Yes.
Okay.
Dortmund has a chance. Bayern's form has been wishy-washy lately. I don't think Dortmund has another tough game left on their schedule. I think Dortmund play, what do they play? Mons, Augsburg, and Mönchengladbach. Those are their 3 games. Bayern have a match week 33 game against RB Leipzig. I think that's going to be the difference maker, and I think Dortmund are going to win it. Wow. I think Leipzig win that contest.
Wow.
I think Dortmund finish on top.
We haven't had in a long time a big league kind of come down to the last, if I can remember. I don't remember. The only time I can remember like a league being decided on the last day was obviously the Sergio Aguero, Balotelli Aguero goal against Stoke when Man U beat Hull City. Man U was winning, and then bottled it as typical United does. But this is a race of, this is 1 and 2 in Germany. Like this isn't like a couple of years ago. This isn't like Lille winning Ligue 1. This isn't Leicester City, which is one of the coolest moments as a soccer fan. Leicester City winning the Premier League. This is the battle of 1A, 1B in all of German football. Maybe not historically, but maybe. Like I know Bayern is definitely one in terms of German football history, but Dortmund have been a dominant name for many, many years. And to see this come down to potentially the last kick of the season could be must watch. So I urge you, I'm going to look at the camera when I say this, because most of the time I'm looking at Sammy's beautiful face, but I'm going to look at the camera for this one. There he is. Got freshly shaved. Love it. If you have ESPN Plus or ESPN, please buy ESPN Plus. Please do. And please, yeah, no, it's not. I mean, I'd love to be, I would love for this to be picked up by ESPN, but please invest into other leagues other than the Premier League. Still watch the Premier League. I mean, we'll vouch for that. We'll say that is the most competitive league. It's the best league by far in terms of, club play. Obviously, Champions League is superior. But the Bundesliga, to me, I know you're kind of more keen on Serie A. I've been a Bundesliga supporter. I just love German football for some reason. I just love it. I know Carl will back me up too. But for the next few weeks, because I believe is the last week of the season, would that be Memorial Day weekend? Or am I crazy? Is it the week before? I think it's the week before.
Dude, if you're asking me to think past tomorrow, you've already lost me.
No. Yeah. So May 27th is when Dortmund play Mainz, which is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. Before you guys party it up and go to the beach and go drink beer and barbecue and do whatever you want that Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, please tune in to the Bundesliga. You can watch this before you start. You can day drink right after this if you want to. This could be one of the most exciting moments, especially in this decade, like so far for the 2020s. But this title race could be historical. And yeah, these two clubs aren't in the Champions League anymore, but now they're going to give it all.
And both have won 3 of their last 5.
Yeah, they're both in decent form, but Dortmund want this bad. I can tell you. I can almost imagine what their dressing room is like. It's just like give it 110% every day. Because for year after year after year, they have seen Bayern Munich celebrate. And I love the German Bundesliga celebrations with all the beer and the Paulaner Pilsner, for Bayern. There's so many pictures of like them pouring beer on each other. Like you don't really get that in the Prem. There's a lot of partying going on, but it's usually like in the locker room. But this is like on the field with the champion shirts and just these big barrels of beer. I don't know what it is. I saw a video of Kingsley Coman doing it. He failed to do it in 21, and then he hit the beer better in 22. It's something that ESPN FC posted on Instagram. But this race should be very, very fun. And I urge every single one of you, if you are a huge soccer fan, if you're just getting into soccer, not only invest in the Premier League, but the Serie A, the Bundesliga, especially now, because we're getting to the end of the year where it's only going to be MLS soccer. But yeah, Sammy.
I would also urge you to watch the Union Berlin Freiburg game. Just another toss out there. That's battle for 4th. Union Berlin has been top 4 for a while, and if they lose to Freiburg, they drop out of the top 4, and our darlings of the 2022-2023 season take a major hit. Not that Freiburg making it isn't also impressive for them, but it would certainly be a little hurt. I know Jeremy's been high on Union.
Union, yeah. So Freiburg, I just want to get this. I don't even know when the last time they were in Champions League. Have they ever been in Champions League? Let's see. They've qualified for the Champions League. Let's just say it's been a while. Like I don't think Union have ever been in it because they've always been like Bundesliga 2, Bundesliga 3. But Freiburg haven't been in it in like a long time. Like it was always like those. It's always good for teams that they get to experience it, like Leicester did. I always go back to Leicester, but like teams like that. So in terms of Bundesliga fixtures for this weekend, Sammy hit on it. I think that's to me the number one game to watch this weekend is Union against Freiburg, battle against 4 or 5. Dortmund, Mönchengladbach. Now I know Mönchengladbach are not going to play European football next year. But to me, they're a team that just are always hanging around, just trying to play spoiler. I think they've always been that type of team. And on all my years as a fan, and I love Mönchengladbach for some reason, they've never been like a top 3, top 4, maybe like once in a while. But they're always that team where it's like if a team needs a big result, they'll play spoiler, and they'll look to play spoiler against a red hot Borussia Dortmund team coming off of a 6-0 win. And then I threw in Frankfurt versus Mainz just because these are two teams that are like mid of the table. Like a lot of them are just, top teams playing bottom teams. This is literally the middle of the pack. 8 versus 9 is always a fun matchup there.
I will just update. Freiburg have not played.
They've never played in the Champions League. So that's another monument. So one of these teams will be making their long-awaited entrance into the Champions League, which is the greatest platform. And what that would do to one of these clubs would be monumental in terms of funding, in terms of bringing in talent in the transfer market. And I think Union need this more than ever because they are finally better than Hertha Berlin. And Berlin is a beautiful city. Again, I urge you, Derby Days on Copa 90 YouTube. Please watch the episode where they talk about Hertha and Union. Berlin is beautiful. I want to go. I'm very jealous of my old roommate, Vince Lundy, who experienced his time in Berlin and looked awesome. All right, so we'll go over from Germany to Spain real quick. There weren't any results. We touched on the results last week, so there's only a couple really big. Again, it's like not a lot of the top teams are playing against each other here, so it's a lot of those middle of the pack teams kind of fighting for Europa League, Conference League, playing each other. Villarreal against Atletico Bilbao was a fun one. I wanted to throw that one in there, and then Real Sociedad against Girona. And Real Sociedad are in a Champions League spot here, so they're trying to stay afloat at that top four. And then Celta Vigo against Valencia. Valencia have been a solid team for my entire life. And they are now, I want to say, is it seven? You might have the standings in front of me. Is it 17th?
17th.
17th place. So if they drop this next couple of games here, we can see this is kind of like the equivalent of like if Everton were to go down, in my opinion, because to me, Everton has always been a solid mid-level team. They've had a couple big names. It's where Wayne Rooney got his start for his professional career. Valencia have been a name in La Liga. And to see them go down would be an absolute shame. You know me. A couple episodes ago, I preached about how it really is like depressing to see big teams just kind of lose their form and get relegated and lose all this money because that's just the way it is. It's a business when it's all said and done. So those are three key fixtures for La Liga. Sammy, am I missing anything there over in Spain?
I just don't think there's much happening in Spain at the present moment.
Yeah, it's all done.
I think that Valencia Celta Vigo is really the only game I care about. I think the relegation battle is more interesting to me, whether because even like seeing Getafe go down would be a little bit of a surprise too. Not quite as much as maybe Valencia, but I think that's a little more interesting to me, especially because between 18th currently, there's 34 points for Getafe, and Valencia also won 34 points. All the way up until 12th, there's only 7 points of difference with the final couple weeks. So I think the relegation battle is far more interesting than the battle for Europe. Barcelona locked in, they're going to win it. Atletico and Real Madrid, they're going to be 2-3 in whichever order. Doesn't really matter. And Real Sociedad's in 4th with 7 points of clearance. If they get a result this weekend, it's over, and I really do believe that. And then Villarreal and Real Betis have the Europa League spots at the moment. Girona getting in 7th would be interesting, but aside from that, I don't really think there's a whole lot to discuss. Still more than Ligue 1, but still not a whole lot to discuss.
And then over in France, there's really one matchup that just stands out. Monaco and Lyon. You actually educated me on this one before we started recording. Now, France are the only really big league that don't have 4 automatic spots for Champions League. So this is for the qualifier. So 3rd gets qualifier, 4th and 5th, or just 4th get Europa League.
4th is Europa League. 5th is Europa Conference League qualifiers.
Oh wow. Okay. So
big difference.
This is a huge game because this is 4v5 for Ligue 1. Now Lille, a team that just won the league 2 years ago. Now they've always been flirting with top 4 ever since they won the league, but to see them go down to the Conference League would be a drastic leap in my opinion, and it really hurts the value of one Jonathan David, who I think might be on the way out this summer. I've always seen his name being linked. I always look and see what players would be worth if they were to stay in the league versus if they were to now again, relegation is different because I wanted to bring up James Ward-Prowse before because I always wondered what his transfer market value would be, somewhere around 20-30 million pounds for a 28-year-old midfielder would be class. But again, not seeing Jonathan David in Champions League would kind of hurt. And he might look for a change of location. Sammy, if you don't have anything else to add in France, my friend, I'm going to hand you the baton. This is actually my TV remote, but I'm going to hand it over to you because I'm a little thirsty. So what's the tea, pal?
I'll take it with my deodorant. The only thing I could really grab in reaching distance. Only thing I was gonna say is that Lille have another tough game against Marseille coming up
Mm,
in match week 36, so that's another one keep your eye on. Also, up the lens beating Marseille 2-1, so up lens.
yeah, it was a tough look.
That's my last
Tough
comment.
look for OM.
We can pick these up. We'll go to some tea now. As usual, I'll rattle off a bunch of random things, and you tell me what you care about. That's just the way it goes. This one I know we both care about. Levante Johnson scores in his first team appearance, or his first team appearance for the Vancouver Whitecaps. So big ups for Levante. Congratulations. He's always a super nice guy, very easy to work with here on campus. He was at Syracuse, obviously an incredible talent. 3 finalists for Player of the Year. So he's incredible. Really excited for him. Hope to see Abi Salim getting more time as well up with the first team. Just in general, seeing these Syracuse guys succeed, they were so incredible to work with this year that it's very easy to root for them. Saliba and Zinchenko, according to David Ornstein, out for the season. Reece Nelson, a target for West Ham, Fulham, AC Milan, and Brighton. Hugo Lloris offered from the Saudi League 3 times his current salary. They can have him. I'm good. Emi Martinez, his replacement, is linked to Spurs. Real Madrid allegedly looking at Kimmich for the following summer, not 2023, but 2024. When,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
What the
Leal sounds a
hell?
5-year contract with Milan. And there's a race to sign Pau Torres, who I think Spurs should also put their hat in the ring for. Villa recently has been linked to them, even though Juventus is also tied to Pau Torres, but preference seems to be shaded towards the Premier League. Vincent Company has signed a 5-year extension with Burnley. And stop being racist. Let's stop saying stupid things to players that perform week in and week out for us. If I hear another thing about people saying outlandish things to Sonny, I'm going to lose my gasket. It's going to be completely gone. This is going to be like we're going to have an explicit advisory episode, so I can just freak out.
I think we should have one just to like not I don't know, maybe we don't publish it like, although we do, just with the warning,
Yeah,
because this is just an ongoing issue that just needs to bleep and
yeah. I'm
stop.
gonna like Sonny's the nicest guy in the world.
He
Sonny's
is.
the easiest guy. Like he'll play dirty every once in a while, but like as a person, he is impossible. Like and he didn't play like I can't anymore. I really can't. And this has come up way too much on this podcast. Not that we shouldn't have the conversations, but like it shouldn't come up at all because it shouldn't be a problem. So let's pass that along to everyone who's a problem at the games. And what do you care about here from what I've said, Jim?
Well, first of all, I've always said that Levante Johnson will be a solid MLS player. Um, I think he will definitely make a name for himself along with Abdi over in Orlando. I think the two of them are going to kill it. And then I'm really excited to see like who gets drafted next year from next year's club, because Coach McIntyre just produces class players. That's it. I mean, this man, like he got to coach Miles Robinson. Like for those who don't know Miles Robinson, like he is one of the best players to come play for Syracuse University. Got drafted by Atlanta United. Will has a bad history with injuries, but when healthy, Miles Robinson gets consideration for the United States national team. So big up to Levante. Congrats to him. Saliba and Zinchenko is a big blow for Arsenal, even though we still think that City have this locked up. I know we talked to Owen last time. He thinks that City have it. I went back and listened to the last episode, and I liked his scenario of like City win the league, they get it taken away, so then it goes to Arsenal, but then we can make fun of Arsenal for winning a Mickey Mouse championship. Like I would appreciate that. Like that'd be pretty fun.
Arsenal equals Lakers.
You think so?
Well, in terms of Mickey Mouse titles, if that's what happens.
Okay. I thought you were gonna like. I always wanted to know like what would be. You know how like people describe like the Duke basketball fan is also a fan of the Lakers, is also a fan of the Cowboys, is also a fan of the New York
Yeah.
Yankees. What would be the Premier League team to throw in that? Would it be City
I
or
think it's United because there's more history. Like, I think
good.
United is closer
Yeah.
to a Yankees, Dallas Cowboys type of deal than, especially Dallas, considering they haven't been the
Yes.
greatest over the last few
Mm-hmm.
years. Like, I
Yep.
think that's the most direct comparison for
Crappy
that one.
owner.
Spurs, who bottles any chance at the postseason like every year? Like, who bottles just literally everything that ever existed? That would be Tottenham. So I don't know who that would be, but that would whoever that is in your various leagues, that's Spurs. But yeah, I still am hoping. I really do think it's time for Yoris to go. I do. I
So
really, really
would you
think.
want Emmy?
I think there's other goalkeepers I would give a little conversation to first. I would ask Andre Onana what's his deal. Um,
Ooh, I saw a
just
tweet. You go
just
ahead,
out
go
of
first.
blatant curiosity, I would go to Magnan. I think everyone wants Magnan, but I would throw him a call. I think he's the future best goalkeeper in the world potentially.
Magnon.
Because yeah, I think he's a serious quality talent, and obviously not a great result this past week, but I think he's special. I would give both of those Milan clubs a call to see what's going on with their goalkeepers. But I think in England, if you're going after one of these Prem goalkeepers, him and Raya are probably your best options. So yeah.
There was a tweet that one of the United fan pages tweeted out, and I think every Man United fan after that loss to West Ham is kind of done with David De Gea. Now, I love David De Gea. He's been Player of the Year for multiple years since he took over the reins from a legend in Edwin van der Sar, who's now head of football operations for Ajax, right? And real quick, I want to just throw another note in from the Man U takeover rant. The Qatari-led group has emphasized that former United legends would have a role in the club, which I think would be very integral in terms of like support of the fans and just getting what you want in terms of players and development and youth development, all that stuff. So like they've said like Rio Ferdinand would get a job with the board. Edwin van der Sar might leave his job in Ajax to come be the football operations guy for Man U. That's been a rumor for many years. But again, just to go back to goalies, there was a name that I didn't even know um, who he was, but I saw this guy and I was looking at his stats and whatever, and it's the goalie for RSC Anderlecht over in Belgium, and it's Bart Verbruggen. And every United fan that I've seen on Twitter has just said, "Sign this man, sign this man." Now I'm trying to get his stats here. He's got 8 clean sheets and 17 appearances in the Belgian league, which isn't that bad, and he's only valued at 5 million euro, which to me is wild. I don't think United would go for a goalie like that. Like I think he'll go somewhere else in between his jump to like a big club. Although Chelsea had been linked to him. People are saying that Mendy's on the way out.
Chelsea's linked to everybody.
They are, but I get that. I understand that. But like it's just funny that goalkeeping is a real big question mark in terms of these big clubs in the Prem. Chelsea, I think, are on the way out with Mendy. You're saying that Lloris might be headed to, I don't know if he's going to go to Saudi Arabia, but again, that's been offered. And you don't mind if he leaves, right? You might be in the market for a goalie. United, De Gea's contract is coming up, and he hasn't signed a new one. They prioritized Garnacho, and Garnacho got a new deal. De Gea hasn't gotten a new deal yet. So now they're also considering Dean Henderson is still property of United. Do we give Dean Henderson a shot that he's been waiting for years? Or do they go after Magnan? Do they go after Emi Martinez? Do they go after Andre Onana? I think one of those goalies might be heading to Man U. I think one of them might be heading to Tottenham as well. If you're smart, if your club gets that new director and a new coach, again, I say this all the time. Yeah, Inter Milan is great. AC Milan is great. I think the product is better at Tottenham and United and Chelsea and City and Arsenal than it is anywhere else, in my opinion. You want to play the best of the best, you go over to the Prem. You want to bring your club back to that stardom, that level. Like the beauty of our club, Sammy, is that we at one point were some of the best clubs in England. Now we're in the top 5, top 6.
7.
Imagine jumping City. Imagine leapfrogging them. Imagine leapfrogging Arsenal next year. Our teams are capable of doing that.
Dude, imagine winning anything. Imagine winning any trophy.
Imagine you get a trophy. Imagine you get the Carabao Cup next year. You guys would be buzzing in the streets of North London. Don't get me wrong. I know it sounds funny, but you would take anything. Y'all will take anything right now.
Just not another Audi Cup. As long as it's not an Audi Cup, I'll take it.
What was that? That was overseas, right? The Audi Cup?
I don't even care. Doesn't count. It's fake. I'd rather win a bubble trophy.
Oh man. But no, the Vincent Company extension, because his name was being thrown around. You mentioned him as the Spurs manager, but I
Linked to
think
Chelsea too.
it was kind of like what's the phrase? It was I just had a phrase in my head, but it was kind of like expected that with him going up to the Premier
Yeah.
League, he was staying no matter what.
Yeah. I didn't expect him to leave, but he was still he's one of those managers that fits the idea that if you wanna start a new project, like he would be a decent guy to invest in.
Yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
he's for Spurs. I don't know if he's quite ready for a club. I mean, I still doubt my club's size from time to time, but like I don't think he's quite ready for that quite level of pedigree as a manager. But he's getting there for sure. Ted Lasso time.
I think so. Sammy.
All right, Jeremy. I'm gonna toss this one to you because you have some pretty in-depth notes here for us on the episode.
Overall, I thought it was a really good episode. Now, I'm gonna address something. I've seen a lot of backlash coming out of season three, and I get that. I really do. I think in terms of story quality, I think in terms of just the story overall, I think season three has been the weakest. However, it's also provided some really great individual moments. Like you and I have cried this season. I didn't cry in season one. I didn't cry in season two. Twice. What was the second time?
Oh, I cried in the same episode twice. I was just really emotional.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost cried last week with the Hey Jude at the bar, Beard telling him like, you have a great mom and dad, and like that's really emotional because you see a kid whose dad lives in England, his mom lives in, I guess her mom's, I guess I still live in Kansas, right? Like, it's really tough. But this past episode, to me, I think I agree with you. It got really good towards the end. I thought it ended well. But just to kind of give a little recap here, so Ted Lasso. Well, Ted Lasso and AFC Richmond have been on really good form, and Total Football is working. Roy Kent is buying into it. Beard is buying into it. Ted's buying into it. The whole club are just on this path. And again, part of me is wondering what's going to happen with the end. But before we get to the end, we really get to see the human side of Roy Kent. Now, there's a bit of a conflict in the episode where Ted has to go on parent-teacher meetings, so he can't do the press conference. So Rebecca asks Roy to do it, and Roy's like, fine, I'll do it, whatever. But then he gives it to Coach Beard, and Coach Beard goes on this rant with this reporter. I thought it was funny. As a classic rock fan, I thought it was hysterical, where he's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be like, Rebecca's like, where are you? And who's talking? And it's Coach Beard arguing with this reporter about who's a better guitarist, Jimmy Page or Joe Walsh. And it's so funny, and he gives a little bit of a reference to Stairway to Heaven. He gives it a little bit of a knock, which I think is hysterical. So with that, Roy and Rebecca kind of have this moment as like, why are you like, she's like, this woe is me thing needs to stop. And I think it's true because I think Roy is a real great it's a great person. We kind of see these moments where he kind of breaks that bad boy, like mean character. One of my favorite moments was a couple episodes ago when they were going over Julie Andrews and their favorite roles. And Roy says Maria, and then Higgins and Ted say Mary Poppins is the best Julie Andrews role. Beard says Eliza Doolittle, but then Trent Crin chimes in with the Princess Diaries. And you see Roy Kent's reaction to that answer, and he just goes, F yeah, Princess Diaries. It's like he is a softie. He's a softie, and Rebecca is slowly getting that side out of Roy. And then eventually he does the press conference after their win, which we'll get into. And then he kind of has a little bit of a joke, and he has a great little like monologue to the press, and everyone gets to hear it. And it's a real great moment for Roy in terms of his personal just character development as a person itself. The main storyline in this episode is during their game against Brighton, they go down 1-0. And a fan, an AFC Richmond fan from the crowd, calls Richmond a really bad name. And I
Three-letter
don't know.
word, don't use it.
Yeah, it's a really bad word. And obviously, we now know that Colin is gay and Trent knows. And then last week we found out that Isaac knew because, it was the whole like delete every nude on your phone kind of deal. Like anything that a woman sent you or you sent them, just delete it. Delete it so we don't get in trouble. And Colin kind of went away and Isaac took his phone and he probably saw something that he didn't want to see. And it got Isaac a little mad. So this comes back to full circle the following week where this fan calls Richmond a bad name, a slur. Isaac goes in and fights the fan and is just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Roy kind of settles it. Isaac gets a red card. Roy and Isaac have this really nice moment where he's just like, I can't take this anymore. Like, I can't, which then leads to Colin telling the team that he is in fact gay. And the reaction is, okay, like, you're gay. That's cool. Like, and
Ted's reaction was the best one.
Whose?
Ted's.
Oh yeah, Ted's. And then he has a reference of like being a Denver Broncos fan. Like, he had a buddy who was a Broncos fan and he ate the 7-layer dip. I literally like that story, and it's like really fun.
Well, it's also more the point of just like him responding, because like part of the thing is like saying we don't care, as in like it doesn't bother us.
We
but
don't
he
not
wanted
care.
to say we don't not care. We do care.
Yeah.
It's just he wanted to emphasize it doesn't bother us, but we still care about this because it's you, because you're a part of this team.
Right. And rightly so. And I like that reaction. I like that saying. I like the whole like, Colin's like, are you comparing being gay to being a Denver Broncos fan? He's like, I guess I am. I'm sorry. I need to retract that. And so they go down 1-0, and then Colin gets 2 assists and they win the game 2-1. And it's Colin's best game as an AFC Richmond player. He's man of the match. We get the moment with Roy at the press conference, but then at the end we get Colin and Isaac kind of burning the hatchet and kind of being like, and then because I guess Isaac doesn't really know what it really means to be homosexual, so Colin just kind of fills him in, and it's like, it's.
I think that's why he was also so like kind of mad, is because he didn't understand it, and he didn't understand why he wasn't allowed to know.
And again, it's a nice little moment here. And then real quick, Keely and Jack done like Jack's in Argentina doing something crazy. I don't know. But then the interactions with Rupert is an all-time. Can I say the word scumbag? He's kind of a bad person.
He's a D-bag, yeah.
Yeah, and what I love about I like Jade more than Nate.
I hate Nate still.
Jade can see right through it. And I think there's going to be a moment between Jade and Nate where it's like, what are you doing? This guy is manipulating you, and he's just like, he's been the worst part of your life. So I think we're going to see a moment where Jade might call out Rupert. Jade might like be like to Nate, like, what are you doing with this guy? And yeah, that might be something we'll see for the future. And again, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this is going for Richmond towards the end of the season. Are they going to win the league? Are they winning a cup? I do like the social media, like who they're playing, like this episode. But yeah, there's just so many questions to be answered about this show. But it was a really good episode overall.
Going to international break next episode.
Is that really?
International break, and Edward and Kung Fu is making a return.
I did see that on the coming up
teaser.
Next. Yeah. Shout out Mike Villegas because he has a really good impression of that man when he came over to try to recruit Sam Obasanya for his club.
So with all that being said, Jeremy, it's time for our fun finish. Cue the little random sound that we put in here, the whistle. I have the first 3 today, and so we typically do a game in history, but since it's a very important person's birthday, I think we got to honor him. So it's going to be 2 players technically that get honored, and this first one is going to be Andreas Iniesta. Happy birthday to Andreas Iniesta. 1-time UEFA best player in Europe, 1-time footballer of the year, 1-time player of the year, 1-time World Cup winner, 2-time European champion, 4-time Champions League winner, 3-time FIFA Club World Cup winner, 9-time Spanish champion. I think that, do you think they get the point yet?
I think so.
3-time UEFA Super Cup winner, 6-time Spanish Cup winner, 7-time Spanish Super Cup winner. And there's still more, but I got tired of reading all of his accomplishments. 162 career assists, 88 career goals, 856 career games. One of the best midfielders to ever do it. So happy birthday to Andres Iniesta. Figured it was worth giving him a little bit of a shout, little spotlight in a day where there isn't necessarily a game I had just kind of buzzed in my mind. So figured that was kind of worth a shout. Now we got locks of the week. Jeremy improves to 9-1-2. I'm 6-2-1. So I need a big week. So I've got Leverkusen over Roma in leg 2 of next week.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be an important one. They lost 1-0 at Roma, and it was a game that I thought Leverkusen was better. So I've got some faith in Leverkusen. So I'm going out on a limb on that one a little bit. Spurs over Villa. I very rarely put Spurs. Very rarely.
You're optimistic. Let's go.
It's the hope
I love
that
optimistic
kills,
Sammy.
It's the hope that kills you. So Spurs over Villa, and then Dortmund over Mönchengladbach. I think that one's the one I'm most confident in out of the 3. Was originally going to actually put Arsenal over Brighton, but with their recent injuries, I'm going to hold off on that one. My 3 stars, first one, Simone Inzaghi for his starting squad decisions that we talked about early, going with 2 guys that don't normally start every single game and maybe not necessarily the choices people expected. And they ended up being your 2 goal scorers. So absolute credit to him for that one. And just the way his team played in that first half. Dwight McNeil, 2 goals and an assist versus Brighton for Everton, and a very solid performance. And shout out my man, Christian Romero. The Rolls Royce returns as the central center back alongside Emerson Royale and Clement Langley in the Spurs back line. Jeremy, I hand it over to you.
All right. Well, Sammy, I wanted to pick a banger of a random footballer this week, and I'm going to shout out my dad, Paul Striano, because every time we talk about Man U, he always asks me, and this player hasn't played for Manchester United since 2019. But for every time I talk to my dad on the phone, he'll always say to me, Jared, where's Marouane Fellaini? Where's Fellaini? He calls him Afrojack because that was my nickname for him, because I was a big EDM fan as a teenager, and Afrojack is a very, very popular DJ. So I gave him the nickname Afrojack because Marouane Fellaini possesses one of the best heads of hair that this game of football has ever seen. It's up there with Carlos Valderrama. If you don't know who Carlos Valderrama is, just give a quick little Google search, and that is a head of hair, let me tell you. But Marouane Fellaini, the former Belgian international, he's our random footballer of the week. So he starts out his youth career in Anderlecht in the 90s as a youngster, as a young player. So he was born in 87. So he starts in Anderlecht as a 7-year-old and signs to their academy, then goes over to Mons, then to Franks Borains, and then Sporting, I was trying to get this right here, Sporting Charleroi, and then Standard Liège. And then that's where he gets his professional debut, is with Liège. He had 64 appearances for them in a couple of years between 2006 and 2008. Then in 2008, and this is where his career sort of takes off, he makes the jump over to the Premier League, over to Everton, where he's had the most appearances in his career for all the clubs that he's played for so far. He had 141 appearances, 25 goals. He's really like a center defensive midfielder, so not a whole lot of goals, but will be a box-to-box player when need be. So he played for Everton 2008 to 2013. Then in 2013, he signs for Manchester United and plays for a very, very long time. 2013 to 2019 was always like, he started, then he became a bench player, then he became just a depth player, and then it was like, all right, time to get rid of him. So then he then goes over where he is now, and he's over now in China playing for Shandong Taishan. So he's been playing there since 2019, and he's made some Belgium caps. He played in the World Cup in 2018, played in the World more highlighted was his run with Belgium in 2014 when they defeated the United States in the round of 16. He played in that game as well. So our random footballer of the week is Marwan Fellaini. Now, Sammy St.Jean, welcome to the Thunderdome. Before we get into our random club, shout out to my kit this week. This is FC Basel playing the Swiss League. Thought I'd throw it out there and mention it in the opening. But Sammy, are you ready for your 10 questions of fate?
I am.
Okay. I have my club. I have my club pulled up in front of me right now.
Is this team in the Bundesliga?
They are not.
Are they in La Liga?
They are not.
Are they in Serie A?
They are not.
Jesus. Are they in the Prem?
They are. It's our first ever Premier League club this entire podcast.
Thank God. I was getting worried there. Is there red in their badge?
There is not.
That helps a lot. Are they in the top or bottom? Actually, let me guess. Are they in the top? Because you can't say
you can't. You gotta do yes or no.
Yeah. Are they in the top half of the Prem?
They are not. This is for everyone at home that kind of says like, "Oh, you guys lose track of your." Now I'm showing you. So that was the sixth question that Sam asked. Okay. So he's four left.
So what has helped me so far is they're in the Prem. They are not red. They are not a top 10 team, and they don't have red in their badge.
Right.
Okay. So that leaves it down to 1, 2, 3, 4 clubs.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 guesses.
Okay.
So this is does this club have blue in their badge?
They do.
Do they have yellow in their badge?
They do not.
So I have this down. So no red.
No red.
They have blue and no yellow.
And there's no yellow.
So this has to be Everton.
It is Everton up the toppies. You know,
I was staring at Everton. I was like, is this too easy? I'm like, this has to be Everton, right?
No, well, because of their big game over Brighton, their 5-1 win, and Marwan Fellaini was our random footballer of the week. Thought I, do a little shot for Everton there. So big up to the Toffees. They have a really big game against Man City this weekend. But congrats, Sammy. You got it. You got it.
Back in the win column. Let's go. Yeah.
All right. Now, for our debate of the week, because I'm going to stall here because I forgot to pull up a Ted Lasso quote. Sorry, guys. But I will have one as we go on here. But my debate topic of the week is, with the news of J.J. Watt and his wife, who is a player for the Chicago Red Stars in the NWSL, they are now minority investors in Burnley, a team that's making the jump from the championship to the Premier League. They've been in the Premier League a handful of times in our years as fans of the Premier League or clubs in the Premier League. So my question would be, we see this now with Burnley. We're seeing it with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, with Wrexham making their jump from the National League. They'll be playing in League 2 next year. So they're on level 4 of English football, or I guess it's English football, even though they're a Welsh team, but Welsh teams playing the English leagues. My question to you is, Sammy, is what low-tier program or what low-tier team would you want to be a minority investor in?
Is it okay if I have no reason to justify it?
Sure.
Queen's Park Rangers.
Okay. Is there?
I genuinely, there isn't a single reason that I have. It's just ever since I just started, I pay semi-attention to the championship, and for some reason I have some fondness for Queen's Park Rangers. Whenever they get a win, I have a little flutter of excitement because they're not Fantastic lately. Obviously sitting 20th right now in the championship, but yeah, no, I would invest in Queens Park Rangers and make them an absolute European superpower
I love
with
that.
the very little money that I have.
So for me, I just want to make this short because I think does this team play in London?
We'll also say Sunderland would also not be a bad show.
Dude,
That was the second
I
consideration.
thought about Sunderland because you know me, we had that nice little episode um where we talked about Sunderland having this big drastic drop. Now they're kind of making their way up again, back in the championship. For me, I have two clubs. One is in England, the other is in Spain. I'll start with the English club that I have in mind. Leighton Orient. So Leighton Orient, also known as, I believe, the Dragons, is their nickname. They play in East London, and they play with a stadium that holds just under 10,000 people. But the point of me investing in Leighton Orient would be, I want another team in London. I don't know why. We have a lot of teams in London in the Prem. We have Palace, we have Tottenham, we have Arsenal, we have West Ham, biggest club in London. We have Chelsea. Adding Leighton Orient to that little mix there would be something. And I don't know. I love the logo. I love this logo. I love the dragons just like looking at each other. And then also, as I have pulled up here, this article from The Guardian, which is a really big paper over in England, and this was about 3 years ago. Harry Kane donates Leighton Orient shirt sponsorship to good causes. So during the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, Leighton Orient, their sponsor, was Thank You Frontline Heroes. And it was like a stethoscope kind of deal. So it was paying homage to those, those healthcare workers that were taking care of everybody in hospitals and whatnot. So I thought that was like an old nugget. The other team would be Real Oviedo in Spain. Now, I'm a big YouTube junkie. I love YouTube. I'm on YouTube a lot, and I was on YouTube a lot, especially in high school. And one of my favorite YouTubers of all time is this guy by the name of Spencer Owen, or Spencer FC, who is the founder president of a club known as Hashtag United. Now, Hashtag has been this fan-made team that Spencer and his buddies made as first as a five-a-side team. So for those of you who don't know, five-a-side is where you play just 5v5. It's not 11v11 like regular soccer. However, they turned into a proper 11-a-side team, playing against like staff teams like the Man City staff team or like West Ham staff team. They then went on to become like a actual semi-pro team, played against teams that were also founded with YouTube channels as well. They are now a proper English football team. They're a little bit below Wrexham. I think they're on the 8th or 9th level of English football. So theoretically, like in 8 years, if they were to win every league that they would be in the Premier League. So they're an actual team now. Seeing this team develop on YouTube in front of my very eyes was awesome. However, Spencer Owen was a minority owner of Real Oviedo because Real Oviedo was going through a real tough time. And they basically said, for as much money as you can, we need to keep our club alive. So he invested a couple dollars into Real Oviedo. So he's actually a part owner. And Real Oviedo has had a lot of great history. One of their players who we all know and love is Juan Mata. He came from Real Oviedo. So they have a real, deep history in Spanish football. But to get them back into La Liga, which they've been close, they're in the second league. To get them back up to the realm of the La Liga would be an impressive stat. So Leighton Orient, Real Oviedo are my teams that I would like to invest in.
QPR.
QPR is great. QPR was a real big FIFA team back in like the early days. A lot of people did QPR career modes, and yeah.
But when you thought of that question, what did you think my answer was going to be? Did you have any like?
I had no idea. It doesn't surprise me that you have like a nice little tie to, a nice little tie to like I thought it was going to be an English team for some reason. Um,
To be fair, that's what I interpreted it as. I thought it was only English teams. That was like the way. For some reason, I thought it was just like any team in like European in any league in England. Sorry, that's how I interpreted it. But yeah, I think I'd still rock with them, even if low key I would consider a random like maybe Ibiza. Like just like thinking of location.
Party destination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just thinking of like location, like something you can have fun with. I feel like Ibiza could be a cool one too.
Well, my other question, so I had two topics that I was coming through. The other was going to be like, what city would you want to put an MLS team in that doesn't have one already? But that'll be for another time. That'll be for another time.
Ready? You're ready with the quote? Are we?
I am. I found
it. Ready? Okay, you got it. Okay.
Okay, so this is from this past week's episode, and it's from the one, the only, Mr. Roy Kent. So this was him at the presser. Look, I get that some people think that if they buy a ticket, they've got the right to yell whatever abusive stuff they want at footballers. But they're not just footballers. They're also people. And none of us know what is going on in each other's lives. So for Isaac to do what he did today, even though it was wrong, I give him love. And as for why he did that, that's none of my effing business.
Thought that was an important one to marinate on. Stop yelling at players, aside from maybe telling them what you think they should do in terms of like, hey, your positioning sucked in the midfield. That's fine. Stop saying stupid stuff. I can't do it anymore. Thank you, Roy Kent, for the inspirational words. Any final points? Are we wrapped up?
No. Hopefully United get a result. I just want to be happy watching United football again. But I'm happy that Spurs have a decent run in them as well.
Well, hopefully the hope doesn't kill me. But this is the 90+2 podcast. I'm St.Jean. That is Jeremy Siriano. And this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We're aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game. And this is our starting point. That was episode 8. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a lovely rest of your week. We will see you next week.